But in 5 years, for instance.
So I don't think so in the United States. I do think eventually you're going to see something like that because there's going to be no way. And I think I hope that we're going to eventually come so strongly. We're going to move on from this model of criminalizing drugs, that we're really going to focus on regulating drugs at the right level for that drug. And I like the word regulation better than legalization. So, I mean, I could imagine what one day regulation, smart regulation might mean for psychedelics. Maybe it could mean that there will be, whether or not you have a diagnosis of a problem, it may be that even for personal exploration, you can do this legally. But you first have to maybe take a course, get a drive, and I'm not the first to say this, but get equivalent of a driver's license. You have to go to get some sort of training. Maybe your first number of experiences need to be with trained guides who can facilitate it. And then the public health information for anyone using this, that this is what riskier use is. All use is going to have risk. This is what riskier use is. This is less risky use. These are the factors. So I think eventually we're going to be but I would say the same thing for like methamphetamine and heroin and cocaine. Like all of these drugs, it's hard to imagine the current approach of just feeding a black market and really exacerbating a lot of the harms from drugs. That happens under the current model. It's hard to imagine that maintaining. That isn't to say I think it should be in all of the 7-Elevens, sold to kids at the other extreme.
I would hope not.
But I do think it's probably not going to be soon in the United States. I do want to make the major point that even if psychedelics had never been made illegal, I think the trajectory of the medical research right now would still need to happen. If it's effective as an antidepressant, like we need it to be, there's all the evidence suggesting that whatever disorder we're talking about, the efficacy is going to be increased and the risks are going to be mitigated drastically in the types of models we're talking about, with the screening, with the preparation, with the integration of cognitive behavioral therapy or what have you, depending on the disorder you're treating, with the integration afterwards with the professionals. So we would be doing it anyway. So it's not like this versus that. So I don't see it as a race between the decriminalization or legalization of these compounds versus their medical development. Some people who are psychedelic fans get all into a bunch about the medical development. They say, you guys want to keep it only for your medical research in the ivory tower, and you want to be in control of it as academics. And my take is, I didn't make it illegal for anyone. We're only moving the needle in one direction. And again, even if it was already illegal, and I've done plenty of survey research of people reporting they took mushrooms for fun or for personal exploration, and they said, my God, why am I smoking? And they quit smoking 20 years because of it. Or it's helped with their depression, or it's helped with them overcoming alcoholism, or these different. Sometimes that happens out of the blue when people use psychedelics. Nonetheless, obviously the efficacy rates are going to be higher when you bring it into these medical models, and it's going to be safer. So we're going to, so we need to be pushing that. And my best guess is that MDMA is going to be approved within the next 3 years. And
for prescription by a physician.
Yes, and not just take two and call me in the morning,
right,
but in the clinics, the way that those PTSD trials are being run. So the MDMA would be approved for PTSD, and every disorder needs to be looked at separately, and it's going to only be approved for those things. Now, there's going to be questions
approved and legalized and regulated, or now we're getting into the nuance. I think when people hear it's going to be approved in 2 years, they think that they'll be able to buy and sell and use MDMA without legal consequences. And I do not think that's going to be the situation. It's not the way it is. And I will say that I think the quote unquote psychedelic community, I mean, they've been doing what they want to and will carry on doing what they want to anyway, right? It's not like the legal status has prevented them from doing what they're doing. In fact, unlike Leary and Timothy Leary and Huxley and some of the others that were very vocal and lost their jobs, and some who even went to jail, et cetera. I mean, you got a lot of public figures now like McKenna and others who are just basically out there talking about psychedelics. Michael Pollan, who is more of a writer, foodie guy, gone psychedelic dabbler, writer guy. I know he's kind of a polymath, but the legal status didn't seem to hinder their at least online careers. I don't know. I haven't looked at their bank accounts, but I'm imagining they're doing just fine, right? So the fact that the work is happening inside of big institutions, I think it's important that you point out, and I'm just trying to underscore that's in no way antagonistic to what people are doing. It's in support of a different sort of mission, which is to explore the validity in different contexts in a really controlled way, which I really, I think it's a really important mission. I want to make sure that I ask you about the other really important mission that you're involved in with respect to psychedelics, which is not about depression per se, but is about neurologic injury or head injury.
Mm-hmm.
I realize it's early days for this, but I think there's a lot of concussion out there, sadly. There's a lot of TBI, traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Not just from sports. I think people sometimes forget that it's not the major source of traumatic head injury is not football, it's not hockey, it's not boxing, it's not any of that stuff. It's construction workers. And it's people, I mean, if you've ever seen the helmets that construction workers wear, I mean.
The jackhammer.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The jackhammer.
How could that not be just like.
Yeah. I have a colleague that works on this in bioengineering. And when you look at we always think sports, but there are many people who make a living in a way that is, over time is detrimental to their brain. And they don't have the option of just not being a professional athlete or something of that sort.